Hey, welcome in, everyone. Apologize for being a few minutes late. It's just bouncing from another lesson right before this. Hey, guess what today is? Aside from being Wednesday, it's the last lesson in our series of modes. We did 2 weeks on each mode, and there's 7 modes. That's 14 weeks. Plus, I think I was on vacation, a couple of those in there, and at a Guns N' Roses concert, one of them. So it's been a while we've been on these modes. So we're going to wrap up tonight with week 2 of 2 for the Locrian mode, mode number 7. And then next week, we're going to start hit around running on a brand new series on lead guitar techniques like hammer-ons and pull-offs, working on slides, working on string bending, working on vibrato, sweep picking, two-hand tapping, hybrid picking. I'm going to dedicate 2 weeks to each subject. So next week, we're going to start 2 weeks on hammer-ons and pull-offs. And we got some exercises and things we'll go over for that. And then every 2 weeks, we're going to work on a different subject with lead guitar, different technique for lead guitar playing. We'll check the tune in here. Okay. Okay, cool. Close enough. All right, so we already got a lot of folks here. Coolness. Steve, hello, Steve, and Theen. David's here, all right, from SoCal. A lot of the usual suspects, and I'm sure a few others too. Russ, cool. Danny, right on. And a bang, hello. David Carlton saying, how many weeks of homework are we allowed to completely master all those techniques? Are you grading on a curve? Yeah, Dave. Hey, Dave, you do a lot of one-on-ones with me and a couple of the other folks that are in the class too as well. Don't pile too much on your plate. These free Wednesday night YouTube classes that Guitar Tricks is so kind to sponsor for us. It's just throwing stuff out there. But people, don't overwhelm yourself with too many things and worrying about this guy on YouTube's doing this and this guy's doing that and she's doing this. There's great players all over the place. And there's also players that aren't as good as you and me. Okay. So don't worry about that. Just find a few things you're working on that you need to work on for your style, for where you're at, your level of playing. Okay. And nobody knows best than you, unless you're working with a dedicated instructor that really cares about where you're at and can tell what you need to work on and kind of point you in that direction. You should be working on that stuff and not get distracted by all this other stuff out there in the world of guitar. I mean, there's enough crazy stuff going on in the world that's not music or guitar, but we're not talking about that. Just try not to get too wrapped up in what everything else is going on in the music world on the internet, because it's easy to get sidetracked and to spend hours just watching videos and, hey, check this guy out and check her out and check out this band. We should spend that time, people, playing guitar, practicing, not watching YouTube stuff. Unless, of course, it's a YouTube like this, folks, where you got an instructor that's open up and going to help you learn something, okay, rather than just showing off a bunch of fast licks, okay, which is impressive, but that's not going to help you get better. What's going to help you get better is working on things you're not good at and practicing. Okay. So anyway, cool, David. Yeah, Dave, you're doing great, man. And I only say that stuff because you and me have talked about piling too much on our plates. And a lot of my students, Dave, do that. We're all guilty of that. And even not folks that aren't my students, but my friends, just some of my other musician friends, we all have a tendency to pile too much on our plate. I kind of do that too, but we got to find when's enough and just kind of put it on hold. Sometimes we don't have enough time in the day to work on everything. But anyway, so Richard's here too. Zach, hello. several Southern California folks. Zane, cool. It's going good, Zane. Appreciate it. And Jim, cool. King 50, right on. All right. Coolness. All right. Well, let's go get this show on the road, people. Last week we talked about the Locrian mode, and I got the diagrams here for everybody. You should have that. Let's quickly review that. What's the theory or the structure of the Locrian mode? When we're thinking numerically, comparing it to a major scale is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 8 is the same as 1, just an octave higher. Okay? Thus the do, re, mi sound. Now, if we start all that on the 7th degree of the scale, which is the note right below the C, and play the exact same notes, but start with B and then go C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Okay, make that the root. It totally changes the sound. The major scale, starting with the 1, sounds very happy. Okay, but if we focus on the B note being the root and play the same notes, it's got a darker sound, and the B chord is a minor 7 flat 5, or if you're just doing triads, it's a B diminished. It's a pretty ugly sounding chord. Let me figure out a better way to do that. See, there's an easy way to play the B minor 7 flat 5 is hold 9 on string 4 and then bar string 3, 2, 1 in the 10th fret with your second or third finger. Okay, that's probably the easiest way to play B minor 7 flat 5. 2 fingers, and it's pretty straightforward. Okay? Another way, same notes, a slightly different order, is that way. Okay? I'm not going to get into that one. And then the diminished way is the way I've got written at the bottom of the page here. That's where you're going to bar the 7th fret with your first finger, put your middle finger on the 8th fret 5th string, third finger on the 9th fret 4th string, and only play with your pick strings 6, 5, 4, and 3. Don't play 2 or 1. Okay? Those are muted, not played. And I meant to, I know in my diagram, I only had one X on the high E string. I meant to put an X on the B string as well. My bad. I physically wrote it in on my diagram here, but you people need to do that too on yours. Okay, so that's just a B diminished triad. Okay, another way to do the B minor 7 flat 5, which is the jazzy way of playing this chord. It's the same thing as I did up here for you, but here you're playing 2nd fret on the 5th string, 2nd fret on the 3rd, 3rd fret on the 4th with your 3rd finger, and 3rd fret on the 2nd string with your pinky. On the 4 middle strings. In fact, those notes are exactly the same as these notes, but an octave. These are an octave higher. It's a B, F, A, D, and in here it's the same thing. B, F, A, D. Now you hear that chord. Right? Sound scale. And numerically, when you think about the notes, how they're related to what would be a major scale, there's so many notes. The Locrian is the mode with the most different notes, and there's a bunch of them that are flatted. So if you look up in the little text box here, this gives you the numeric relationship, the numeric interval names for the notes. So it says Locrian is the seventh mode, starts on the seventh degree or seventh note of the major scale. Okay. Now we're doing all these relative to C major. So the seventh note in the C major scale is B. So if we play the notes of C major, but make B the root, that ends up being the Locrian mode. And key-wise, it would be B Locrian. Okay. The notes of the parent chord are B minor 7 flat 5. If you're doing it's B minor. I'm sorry, it's B minor with a flat 5 if you're doing the triad. So it'd be a root, a flat 3, and a flat 5. If you're playing a little more jazzy context, it's a B minor 7 flat 5, which would be a root, flat 3rd, flat 5th, and a flat 7. Okay. Those are the gold notes to focus on while the other scale tones add colors. All right. You know what I forgot to do for some reason? I didn't put in the numeric numbers for the rest of these notes. Oh my goodness. Another typo. My bad, people. Well, I'll tell you this, if you want to write them down, okay, it goes like this. Well, actually, it's not all is lost because inside the black dots is the intervallic relationship to the root. So the root note in your diagram would be the red dots. And then the very next one should have a flat 2. So you got a root, flat 2, a flat 3. The perfect fourth is the only note other than the root that doesn't change. Then we got a flat 5, a flat 6, a flat 7, and a root again. Okay, so that's a lot of flats. All right, it's got a 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7. So 5 of the 7 notes are flatted, and the other 2 are the only 2 that stay the same, the root and the fourth. Okay. Sounds kind of very mystical, doesn't it? Okay. There's not many song examples I can come up with that use that, but just theoretically, it's good to know it is one of the modes. Okay, and David Carlton's got a question here. Says, random question. If you're playing a root 3rd and 5th and any other remaining note or notes from the scale, is that an acceptable chord? Are they any bad combinations of all the notes, if all the notes are in the scale? Well, Dave, yeah, actually, that's where you get those extra colors. So just thinking about, if we take a little detour here, folks, and go with what Dave's talking about. I'll try to keep things simple here. Let's just say we're in C major, playing a C major chord, okay? Now, in that chord, if I just hold it, like a partial, like an F shape up on the 8th fret, that's still C. If I add like the 10th fret on the 1st string, that's in the C scale. You hear Jimi Hendrix will do that a lot. It is a nice note. That's the 2 or the 9 is added. Okay, that always sounds good. How about this note, the 10 on the 2nd string? That's the A note or the 6th degree, or an octave higher would be the 13. Sometimes you can even putt around with both of those. Maybe do a little hammer-on pull-off on the high one. And then we can even do the 10 on the 3rd string. So you got all these, we look for little add-on notes we can do while we're holding a chord and see what comes up. Okay. If I add the 10 on the 3rd string, it turns it into a C sus4 chord. If I add 10 on the 2nd string, it's a C6 chord. If I add 10 on the 1st string, it's a C add 9 chord. What if we do something with the bass note and we play arpeggios and we walk the bass note down like this? Then I take the C note and I just lower it. I have to refinger it to go this. How about if I lower that one more and refinger it to this? And then how about this? of tricky, but I'm trying to walk down the scale with the bass notes while I'm still playing the C triad up top. That sounds pretty cool too, Dave. Right? That's just adding notes in there, just based off of, I'm just kind of making this up on the spot based on what you're talking about. Maybe another way of playing a C is back here, right? Your cowboy chord C. Add the first string, 3rd fret. That actually doesn't change the chord at all because it's a G note, which is already in the chord. So it doesn't really add any different color. What if I go to the 2nd string, 3rd fret? Makes it like a C add 9. Kind of like what they use in Dust in the Wind. I think Guns N' Roses does that also in Sweet Child of Mine when they're singing the verse. You can do the pinky pull off maybe on that C add 9. Then take your first finger off, play the open 2nd string, and go back down because the open 2nd string is B. That's in the C scale. Okay, Dave? Okay. What if you had a C bar chord like this? And then we kind of do some of that R&B stuff where we take that bar finger, your 3rd, do your first finger there. We maybe hammer on to the 7 on the 4th string. That's the 6th degree. That's A. That makes it a C6 chord. Then slide maybe from the 7 on the 5th string. That's your E note. That's just the 3rd of the chord. Slide back to the D. That's your 2 or your 9. And then back to the C. See, with that, you've got all those add-on notes. You can add 7 on the 4th string. You can add 7 on the 3rd. You can add 6 on the 2nd. Keith Richards does that stuff all day long with that. Kind of like Honky Tonk Woman. A lot of that, you add in extra notes on top of your chord. Add on. It's still C. A. D. And then that's G, but instead of playing the G chord, he plays a riff using the notes of the G chord. Yeah, Dave, a lot of stuff you can do if you experiment with a chord and then just try adding in other notes from the scale, the key you're in, to that chord and just see what comes up. Like I was just kind of exploring, okay? A lot of cool stuff you can do with that. Yeah, Dave, we do that. The band I'm in, we do that song. And I know most of the Rolling Stones songs, Keith uses an open G tuning, which makes a lot of their stuff a lot easier to play. But some of their songs are actually not that hard to play in standard tuning. And since that's the only song we do in the set that's got an open G tuning, I try to learn it, figure out, well, how can I do this without having to lug 2 guitars to the gig when, the rest of our 3 sets is on a standard tuning, just have 1 guitar and open G. Let me see if I could figure out how to play that in standard tuning. And that's what I did, Dave. I know on Guitar Tricks, all those Stone songs on Guitar Tricks, they do in correct open G tuning. They show you the right way to do it. But, if I was wanting to show a student that absolutely wanted to learn it Keith's way, it would be easy to do. In fact, it's probably easier to play in open G tuning. But the way I just played it, It's pretty much the same notes Keith's doing, and it's not that hard. And it's something I think you could do too, Dave, for sure. All right, so folks, let's just jump back to our Locrian mode here. So the 3-note per string pattern, if anything, people, if you're into kind of shreddier guitar playing or legato style, right? Look, what I dig about this pattern is that every 2 strings, it's the same shape. Okay, notice that the 6th and 5th string are half step, whole step. Fingers would be 1, 2, and 4. Then the 4th and 3rd string are whole step, half step. Fingers 1, 3, and 4. And then the top 2 strings are whole step, whole step. Fingers 1. I like to use 2 in the middle, so 1, 2, and 4 twice. So that makes a really cool, easy thing to remember. If you pick them all. And you want it to sound like the B Locrian, make sure after you play the scale, you end on a B note. Hear that sounds? Yeah, it sounds kind of mysterious, doesn't it? Okay. Or if you want to do legato style, like Randy Rhoads, Van Halen does this a lot, pick the first note, hammer on the next 2. And that's a good exercise for trying to get good volume on your notes. In fact, let me just add a tube screamer into the chain here. Okay. Okay, now pick, hammer, hammer. And you got to work with your muting technique too, because if we don't mute the other strings, it sounds like a mess when I get up to the top. Got to make sure your right hand mutes the thicker ones once you're done with them. See, as I move down to the thinner strings, I start to move my hand and my thumb muscle right there onto the thicker strings. Okay, try it also. Good exercise, people. Do it backwards. Whoops. Okay. Or pick the high note, pull off, pull off. And when you do your pull-offs, make sure that all 3 fingers are down before you play the first note. If you're playing, follow the leader with your fingers. Okay, it's going to be a lot harder to get it quick, and it probably won't sound as loud and as strong as you want it, because you want all your notes to have a snappy pull-off and snappy hammer-ons. Like when you hammer on, you don't want to be delicate and light-fingered with it. You want to be forceful and accurate. Not like that, like this. You can hear every note. It's nice and pronounced. Even if I do it with a clean setting, people, the idea is you don't want to use distortion or compression to help you sound better. We should really be good with a clean sound, right? Like this. I'll turn my volume down so it's clean. You can hear all the notes, even when I do my hammer-ons. They sound clean because I work at getting good snappy and loud articulation with the fingers. Pick, get them all down, pull it off. And when you pull off, don't just lift out delicately. You got to pull it. That's what I call it, a pull off. You got to pull off down to the floor in a snapping motion. It's like you pluck the string with your finger, your pinky. Now you pluck that same string with your middle finger. Okay. And then we go to the second string quickly, put all 3 fingers down, same thing. Okay. But let me go back to my little bit overdrive, crank it up. See, if you can sound good on the clean setting, it's only going to sound better with overdrive. But if you can't sound good with the clean, the overdrive, it'll make you sound a little better, but it also sounds kind of noisy, and it's really not the way to go. All right, don't use the effects to cover up your lack of technique. We should really be able to do, in fact, I practice a lot of my playing I do on my nylon string, my Cordoba classical for the Spanish classical stuff. It's sitting in my other room, but that, it's acoustic nylon string. You really need to work. If you want to do pull-offs and hammer-ons, you got to get them fingers stronger. In fact, I noticed when I practice on that guitar for a while, and then I come play my electric, to play this Les Paul or that 335, it's like butter. It's easy, breezy, because my fingers are used to playing the thicker strings and really working to get the volume out of pull-offs and hammer-ons. Okay. Also, too, with your 3-note per string, just try to do sequences where you play ideas across the strings, not necessarily running up the scale just straight up, but maybe make up a lick like. Where you got a lick that goes 3 notes on the high string that go straight up and down, and it ends on the high note on the next string below, the second string. Then I repeat the same idea. 3 notes on the second string going all the way up and back down. Then to the first note on the next string below. Then I repeat it right there. Then I repeat it, just keeping it within the frame of the scale. Same thing with going up. And then again. So what I do is I do the first 6 notes, and then I play the same idea on the 5th and 4th string. Then the same idea on the 4th and 3rd. But keep the finger shapes within the framework of your 3-note per string scale. Just like Jim Gregory's saying, that's a nice 3-note per string scale shape to play fast. Exactly, Jim. So there's a few of them. If you look back over our modes, if you've printed out the sheets from all 7 sessions, all right, take a look at the 3-note per string ones. I'm going to point out there's a few other 3-note per string patterns that are very symmetrical or even easy to play fast, okay? And easier to memorize because of that, okay? So how about going up? Something like that. Sometimes I like to start out slow and then speed up and maybe slow down. Like have it ebb and flow so it's not just all fast stuff, but or maybe start out slow and go fast. Things like that. Okay? Just options. Throw things out there for you. All right. And then, of course, if you're into finger tapping, that works real good. Come up with a little finger tapper lick on one string. Like tap, pull off, hammer on, tap, pull off, and do that on every string all the way down the line. Maybe ascend with it. Go. Possibly. Or maybe just go down. Go. Different ideas there. Just throwing them out. Okay. So let's do a quick recap, and then we're going to look at page 2 for our modes that we didn't do yet, but this is where we're going to try them on one string and think about the intervallic relationship, not in terms of numbers, but numerically with root, flat 2, flat 3, 4, that kind of stuff. But we're going to think about our scale pattern in terms of whole and half steps, which is a really valuable way of understanding music and how your guitar's laid out. It's just as valuable as knowing the numeric interval names. Okay, so let's talk about other scale patterns we did. Okay, the Ionian, the C major, the very first one we did was this pattern. Okay, that one is a nice one too. It goes with Jim's comment about it's an easy scale to play fast because we're doing every 2 strings is the same shape. The 6th and 5th string is frets 8, 10, 12. Then the 4th and 3rd string is 9, 10, 12, 9, 10, 12. And then the 2nd and 1st string is 10, 12, 13. And then to make it sound like C Ionian, and on the C at the end, try it going down. 13, 12, 10. First, 2nd string. Then 12, 10, 9 on the 3rd and 4th. And then 12, 10, 8 on the 5th and 6th. Okay, that one's nice, symmetrical. The Dorian one, D Dorian, that's not as finger friendly necessarily to play. It's 3 notes per string, but the 6th string is unique in itself. It's frets 10, 12, 13, and then strings 5, 4, and 3 go 10, 12, 14. Okay, they got 3 strings in a row that are all the same shape, and then the top 2 strings are 12, 13, 15. Goes with the D minor chord. It's another neat way of playing the scales 3 notes per string too, is don't play the notes in order, but make it sound a little more jagged, all right? Like it's up, down, instead of just all up or all down. Like maybe go low note, high note, middle note on every string. It sounds more complicated than it is to play. Low note, high note, middle note on every string. Kind of a neat little thing. Okay, Dave's got another comment, and then we're going to get on. I'm going to review the other patterns real quick, and we'll discover which other ones are fast and easy to play, like the Locrian. So far, we discovered Ionian is, and the Locrian, the first and last mode so far. Okay, Dave's comment now says, for me, it's tough when the 3 notes are a whole step apart and they fall on the top 4 strings. I'm not convinced everyone is made to be good at that. Agree, Locrian is not too bad. Yeah, Dave, everyone's, especially the classic rock guitar players, like the guitar players, we're talking about the old school players, like the guys in Skinnerd, the guitar player with Bad Company, playing in Paul Rogers' first band, Free, all right now. The guitar player there, Jimi Hendrix, a lot of those classic rock players didn't really do the wide 2 whole step spreads and the 3 note per strings as much. They were a little more based out of your pentatonic blues and the comfortable cage pattern. Okay, so that's that. But once, like Eli Roth from the Scorpions, the original lead guitar player in the Scorpions, he comes out And if you've ever heard Sails of Charon from the Scorpions, that's got some really cool solo work in there. And players like Alan Holdsworth, the jazz fusion player, he was in the 70s. He inspired Ed Van Halen to some degree. With some of Alan would do a lot of legato playing with these gigantic finger stretches that would go from like 12 to 15 to 19. You know, if you just do that across all 6 strings, keep the shape the same, go 12, 15, 19, you get some really wacky outside sounds. You know, just kind of screwing around with that. You know, Ed's doing that on Beat It for Michael Jackson's Beat It songs, the solo. Ed's doing these wide legato stretches with fingers 1, 2, and 4. I forgot, I transcribed that solo a long time ago. And if someone wanted me to dust off the solo Resurrect, I'd pull out my Wolfgang model Van Halen guitar and do it on that for you. But it's got some cool whammy bar dives, pinch harmonics, a little tapping stuff. Some cool tapping licks in there and some wide stretches. So once, like Uli Roth and the Scorpions and Alan Holdsworth, they were in the 70s. They were doing some more advanced type of guitar playing than most of the classic rock players that we grew up. Even like Black Sabbath and Kiss, Tony Iommi, Ace Frehley, those great bands, Jimmy Page. They tend to play more of a bluesier approach and more of the cage patterns and the pentatonic and the blues boxes. Okay. But then once Van Halen came on the scene and opened up the can of worms to this crazier, wider intervals, wider stretches. Randy Rhoads also was doing the 3-note per string. It just depends on what we were brought up on. I jumped on that stuff when it came out when I was a kid. I was, only been playing guitar a couple of years when that stuff came out, and I jumped on it and was like all about learning that stuff. So I got on it pretty quick, Dave. But some of my older adult students that didn't ever really experience that type of wide stretches, their fingers just can't do it. And that's okay. We don't need to do it. You know what, though? If you like the wide stretches and your fingers on your left hand can't do it, that's where the finger tapping comes in. Because if you can't do these big stretches with just your left hand, I can still finger tap them and I just do fingers 12 or frets 12 and 15 with my left hand and tap 19 with my right. Okay. There are ways around it. And I think that's why Van Halen was adding in the tap finger, because he was realizing he could get other notes further up way higher than he could ever reach with just one hand. So, there's no one right way to play guitar, everybody. There's many good ways. Okay. There's many good ways. All right. So we talked about Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian. That's not symmetric or doesn't have an even pattern that's easy to remember either. Does have a mystic kind of sound. Does have a mysterious sound. Get a definite snake charmer sound out of that Phrygian, though. I love the sound of that thing. Lydian, also not a comfortable pattern necessarily, but really I'm pretty good at playing all 7 of the 3-note per string modes just because I practice them a lot. You practice these things, people, use them as exercises, and eventually you're going to find them popping up in your solos. Some of these come out even when I'm doing my blues stuff with the band. Sometimes I put a little flash lick in there. Right? And that's just based out of 3 notes per string and just legato, working it through. Okay, it's nice to throw in once in a while without overdoing it. Okay, Lydian one. Lydian's very cool. Satriani and Steve I like that one a lot. You can kind of hear that. Okay, Mixolydian. That's kind of a fun one. The first 3 strings, 6, 5, 4, are all whole steps. 3, 5, and 7 for G Mixolydian. And then strings 3 and 2 are the same half step, whole step shape, but when you go from the 3rd to the 2nd, you got to go up a fret. And then the top string is the only one that's different. It's frets 5, 7, 8, fingers 1, 3, 4. And again, Slash does Mixolydian quite a bit in Sweet Child of Mine, D Mixolydian. Okay, next one's Aeolian. And again, that doesn't have an even where every 2 strings is the same shape. 6 and 5 are whole step, half step. 4, 3 are whole step, but then string 2 is also whole step, but up a fret. And then string 1 is half step, whole step. That's Aeolian is Stairway to Heaven. You get the idea. All those notes, Aeolian all day long. Same thing as C major, people, but we're focusing on the A being the root. Okay, so that brings us, Aeolian is the 6th mode, or the 5th mode. The 6th mode. The 7th mode brings us to what we're on today, Locrian. So there's only 2 3-note per string patterns that are very finger-friendly in terms of the speed. It's the Ionian and the Locrian, the first and the last mode. So not going to go over them again, but you can look those up on the YouTube classes here. They'll still have the curriculum, allow you to print it out if you want to grab those. Okay, so let's jump over and talk about this page 2. Another good way to think about your scales, any scale for this matter, is try to play it on one string, and then the string below it, just below it, keep that open. And whatever that string below it is, that's the root note of the key we're in. So I was doing B for all this because the second string's B. And then we're going to play the first string Locrian today, because we're doing Locrian, on just the first string. Now, in terms of the intervallic structure, you want to think about it in whole steps and half steps. A whole step in guitar is equal to 2 frets on from any note to another that's 2 frets higher or 2 frets lower. A half step is any note that's 1 fret higher or 1 fret lower, okay, on the same string. So Locrian, let's review this real quick. Locrian's pattern starts with a half step right out of the gate. Right away from note 1 to 2 is a half step, and then whole step, half step, then whole step, whole step, whole step. and then you're back at the first note an octave higher. So this is good too. This is good for your ear because you need to listen to people, not just get caught up with, oh, that scale is fast to play, which is cool, but we need to slow things down and listen to how the notes sound. Like when we're playing Lydian, that sharp 4 note to me really stands out like a sore thumb, but a good sore thumb. It's a neat sounding note that just sticks out. The Phrygian mode is very exotic and mysterious sounding because it has certain notes that help it with that, like the flat 2 and the flat 6. So those, you want to know what those magic notes are that make it sound unique. So here, let's take a listen to this. Let's just play example 1, the top example for the modes on 1 string Locrian. Okay. Okay. And we'll play the B string with it in the bass because that'll help us to hear a tonal reference. Okay. I'm going to turn off my overdrive just a little bit so it's just slightly cleaner. And I've got both pickups on, so it again sounds a little softer. Okay. Then the next note I'm going to do is a half step up. Ooh, hear how that flat 2 sounds? That half step up. Okay. Then the next note is the minor 3rd. That sounds kind of dark too. The next note is the perfect 4th, a whole step up. Okay. Then the next note's a half step from the 4th. Ooh, hear how that flat 5 sounds? That sounds kind of nasty, dark too. Then we go up another whole step to your flat 6, and then up another whole step to your flat 7, and then a whole step to your octave. Okay, listen to that again. Let's try it backwards. That would be example 2. It says B Locrian descending. We'll go from the 19th fret on the 1st string, back a whole step, back another whole step to the 15, back another whole step to the 13. Ooh, that's the flat 5 note, people. Hear how that sounds against the root note? Sounds kind of ugly, but that's part of the mystic tension of this mode. Then a half step to your 4th. The 4th sounds really good because it's not altered. Okay, it's a perfect 4th. Then another whole step to your minor 3rd. Sounds kind of dark. To your flat 2, to your root. And I go back to the flat 7 if I like. Okay. Now another good exercise is just with one finger, try to play that scale going up in 3s. So we're going to go up 3 consecutive notes. That's what the next line is, people. Line 3 in your chart says B Locrian. We're going to go up 3 notes at a time. So the first 3 would be fret 7, 8, 10. Then the next triplet is 8, 10, 12. Next one is 10, 12, 13. Then 12, 13, 15. 13, 15, 17. 15, 17, 19. Pardon me on that G string. Didn't mean to hit that. Okay, let's listen to it again without me talking. How about without the stopping? A really good way of doing it now, people, is try to play it without having that pause. Okay, let's try it backwards slowly. We're going to go 19, 17, 15. This is the very bottom line on your page. Then 17, 15, 13. 15, 13, 12. 13, 12, 10. 12, 10, 8. 10, 8, 7. And then sometimes we can even go a little further and go 8, 7, 5, then back to 7. Okay, now how about without stopping, like this? Okay, backwards. up just ideas with that. Just little licks with it. Just explore the pattern. Just screw around with it. Have fun. Okay, that's how you come up with ideas, is trying to play out of the box and just get in these zones where, you know, some of what you play might not sound good, but sometimes you stumble on things that sound kind of neat. All right, very cool. Let me just read a few comments here. Oh, Second Chance Band. I see your comment there. Stopping by to say, hey. Yep. All right. Yeah, I got you, Marianne. Second Chance Band. I know you're busy. I see on your Facebook posts you're doing a lot of classes too. I think you're also teaching ukulele, I believe, right? Good for you. Cool. Man, before the COVID hit, you know, I wasn't doing anything online. And then when COVID hit, I bounced all my students to online, and Guitar Tricks, it's got me super busy with students from them too. We're doing, I'm everything I do now is 100% online. I used to do a lot of those kind of rec center classes live with beginning guitar students and blues guitar students, different community colleges. I would do those at in person. It was pretty fun. But man, since COVID hit and everyone, you know, kind of forced us to go online for a while, it's like I'm so busy with that, I have no reason to go back to live group classes in person. But glad you're doing that. Yeah, teaching ukulele and guitar, and got choir in my band. Yeah, good for you. Good for you, Marianne. Glad to see working musician right there. That's someone to look up to, people. Taking your talents and then bringing them out to the world, not just to play, but to help others. You know, help others get better at their guitar, their ukulele, their singing, whatever. All right, that's what we're here for, man. We're all here to help each other. Humans helping humans. All right, coolness. All right, so we got a few more minutes, people. Let's just do one little comparison between Ionian and Locrian, because those two modes are about the opposite you can get. All right. Ionian has no notes that are flatted, and every subsequent mode has at least one note that's flatted. Like Ionian has no notes flatted. Dorian has a flat third and a flat seven. What's after Dorian? Phrygian has a flat two, a flat three, a flat six, and a flat seven. Okay. The next one is mode 4. That's Lydian. Lydian has a sharp 4, has one note that's changed. Next one is mode 5, is the Mixolydian. Mixolydian has a flat 7, just one note's changed there. Okay. The 6th mode is Aeolian. That has a flat third and a flat 6 and a flat 7, has 3 notes that are flatted. Okay. But Locrian, the one we're on today, that has 5 notes that are flatted. There's no other mode has 5. The most we had before that was the Phrygian, had 4 with a flat 2, 3, 6, and 7. Locrian has a flat 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so check this out. If you listen to B major, comparing it with the B string as a pedal note, it sounds very happy. Sounds like do, re, mi, right? Now listen to this. Hear that major 2? That's your flat 2. You hear the sound difference there? Like paying attention to those little differences, those subtle, that flat 2 just sounds really, you know, if you're looking for a kind of a mystic, evil interval, the flat 2 will get you there. See, the 2 sounds a little too happy and bright. I mean, not in a bad way, but compared to Locrian, it's really bright. Okay, then your major third, do, re, mi. Well, the Locrian has a flat 3. Yeah, that major third versus the flat third. Okay, then the fourth is the same in both. That's the only note that's the same. Now, the fifth sounds really good in major, but the flat 5, you know how dark that sounds? Okay, that also sounds kind of mystical to me. Okay, then your flat 6, major, sounds very bright and positive. The Locrian has a flat 6. Yeah, that sounds dark. And it got the flat 7 too, instead of the major 7 in major. Locrian. So this is good ear training too, people. Is just one finger it and just listen to the sound of the notes. That's part of playing music, people, is listening, is paying attention to the sound we're getting out of the speaker or out of the box, the acoustic box there. Okay, that's important stuff to consider as you're learning and trying to master your chosen instrument. Try to pay attention to what you're playing, the sound, not just trying to make sure your fingers are right and your picking is right, but also listen. Because once you get into wanting to write songs and maybe improvise, maybe you want to write a solo that sounds kind of Middle Eastern, you need to know what notes make it Middle Eastern. What scales would that be? If you want to sound kind of jazzy, what would you have to play to do that? If you want to sound kind of happy and poppy, what scale would you have to play for that? All right. There's a lot of different musical choices, but we got to listen. Okay. So I'm going to wrap it up, everybody. And then let me just read the comments here. Russ, you're very welcome, man, for this mode series. We're going to definitely move on. I'm ready to move on too. Next week, we're going to start, I believe I mentioned it to you earlier. We're going to start a 2-week short series on hammer-ons and pull-offs, but we're going to have a long-term series on lead guitar techniques. And I'm going to dedicate 2 weeks to each technique. So we're going to spend 2 weeks on hammer-ons and pull-offs will be the next thing, next week and the week after. Provided a few vacations thrown in there. I think during the holidays near Christmas and New Year's, I'm going to take that Wednesday off, and there might be something else in there. I think I have a gig too with the band on one of those Wednesdays. So other than that, we'll just plow through this for a while. Okay, so cool. Richard, all right. Yep. Glad to hear you like that. Cool. Russ, cool. And David, appreciate it. Yep. Danny, very welcome. Jim, coolness. Cool. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, people. And the modes are daunting. I just wanted to at least throw them out there and get everyone familiar with them. But don't sweat them. You know, find 1 or 2 that you like and just kind of camp out on that for a while. Okay. Zane, yeah, coolness, man. Go D-backs. Yeah, well, hopefully they lost last night. I'm going to go put the game on now. I'm not sure where they're at, but they need to win. If they don't win tonight, it's over. And Texas Rangers win the series. King 50. All right, good. Glad you liked it. Cool. And then Second Chance Band. All right, cool. All right, we'll see everyone next week. Everyone be good. Peace. Keep those fingers flying. Keep practicing. And the bottom line, don't give up. Just keep playing. Even if you're frustrated, just work on stuff. You're going to keep getting better. Hang in there. All right. So Second Chance Band's going to watch the game too. Cool. I'm going to go put it on right now. All right, everyone be good. We'll see you next Wednesday, same time. All right, take care. Bye.